Yom Sheni Parshas Chukas Or Lehei Tammuz Tavshin Pei Aleph. The previous shir, we were discussing a topic: if a person that does aveiras, sins, if such a person, is it possible for such a person to trust in Hashem? The back and forth about it was that when someone trusts in Hashem, the idea is that the person feels that everything that he has is only because Hashem is helping him. He understands, he's aware of that Hashem gives him everything. And if a person is really aware, then that person doesn't do sins. He just does the right thing. When a person trusts, if it's real trust, then it means that the person has some kind of communication, and the person does everything he's supposed to, and he knows, if I do what I'm supposed to, Hashem is going to, of course, do good with me. When a person is doing whatever he wants, and the person is just living a free life, in such a situation, usually it's not a real trust. The person doesn't want to remember about Hashem. The person wants to just live their own life, forgetting about the awareness of Hashem. On the other hand, a person is supposed to know that Hashem has Rahmanas. Hashem wants to do the best for every person, no matter what. Even if a person is in a situation that they fell, or they did something they're not supposed to, a person is supposed to know that Hashem loves them no matter what. And the previous shir we had discussed that there's two types of situations a person is in when they do an aveira. Sometimes a person is rebellious. That means a person doesn't want to believe and doesn't want to do. And then there's a person that wants to be good. It's just hard, because there's temptations, there's things that pull the person to do things that they wouldn't really want to do. And this is really the main idea a person is supposed to know. As long as a person wants to do good, and a person thinks about Hashem, just they have habits, they're used to doing things, and it's hard for them to redo their whole to become a brand new person and change all their habits. So of course they could trust in Hashem and should trust in Hashem. That's what we were discussing in the previous shir. Now, here is a very important addition that we're supposed to remember, very important, which teaches us, and today's shir will learn, that no matter what, in any situation a person is in, technically, even if they would be rebellious and they would do the worst things with the worst thoughts, they could trust in Hashem no matter what. L'kula am, that means nobody would argue on that. You can't argue on it. And that this works. Let's understand the idea of it. We know that a person could change directions of their life in any given moment. It takes a split second to change directions in life. It doesn't take a second. It takes much less than that. There's a full parsha in the Torah teaching us that a person that wants to be good, that wants to become close to Hashem, it doesn't take time. It doesn't take that we have to travel somewhere. On the second, in the heart, when a person wants to trust in Hashem, wants to rely, wants to connect, they're there. They're just there. Instantly. This parsha is in Parshas Nitzavim, and it's psukim in the Torah that you can't argue. And it's ki mitzva azois. The mitzvah that I'm telling you to do, you should be aware, the Torah says. It's not far. Lo nifleis hi mimcha, v'lo rechoi kohi. And the psukim elaborate. You would never have to travel overseas to reach Hashem. You don't have to climb up to heaven to reach Hashem. That's what it says in the Torah. Lo b'shamayim hi, lo me'ever layam hi. And the pasuk, the following pasuk says, so where does a person have to go in order to reach Hashem? In the heart. It's in the heart. A person in their heart, if they realize, I can't help myself, if they realize, I was wrong, I did something I wasn't supposed to, I feel bad, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have went there, I shouldn't have did what I did, whatever it is, and they just have charata, they really, the word charata, they regret. They regret it with a real feeling of regret. That is called tshuva. And when a person does tshuva, it takes a split second to have that right feeling. Right then and there, it doesn't make any difference what the person was thinking, doing, looking, speaking. A split second ago, they're all the way next to Hashem. All the way. There's absolutely nothing holding them back. Then, not only they could reach out, not only they could rely on Hashem, Hashem's waiting for them. Wants to help. And that's very important to learn this topic, because a lot of us have misconceptions about the idea of tshuva, and that's the Yetzer Hara's work, because the Yetzer Hara doesn't want us to remember how easy it is to do tshuva. How easy people feel that in order to do tshuva, they need to change their lifestyle. They need to become a new type of person. That is, in the long run, a person has a vision, and a person is supposed to try to change everything. Every single person on this world, as long as we're here, we're supposed to try to fix and to get better. But that instant thought that a person wants to be close to Hashem and knows that he can't do anything on his own and he relies on Hashem, that is tshuva. The Rambam never mentions tshuva as a mitzvah. It's not mentioned that there's a mitzvah to do tshuva. It says, when you do tshuva, then you should elaborate and say vidui. We once used the word for vidui. Confess. That means he should say, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. That's when you do tshuva. But tshuva on itself, the Rambam doesn't count it as a mitzvah. And the Mefarshim ask, what's the idea of it? Why doesn't the Rambam count it as a mitzvah? So there's a Yismach Moshe in Parshas Nosoi. It was the first Rebbe in the dynasty of Satmar. He was a Talmud from the Chayzer from Lublin, the Yismach Moshe. Yismach Moshe, he always used to wait for Mashiach on he used to be ready for Mashiach to come. He said he's a Gilgul from Yirmiyah Hanavi. A lot of very interesting stories from the Yismach Moshe. The Yismach Moshe, he has a piece in Parshas Nasa, he explains. He says, someone asked me, that's what he writes in the Sefer, someone asked me, why doesn't the Rambam count tshuva as a mitzvah? He says, I'll tell you why. Because tshuva, you can tell a person to do things. I want you to get up on a ladder and clap your hands 5 times. You can tell someone to do that. You can't force a person to regret. It's a feeling. If you're telling him to regret, and he doesn't really feel that feeling, then it's nothing. It's like forcing the child to say, I want you to say I'm sorry. No, say I'm sorry. That's nothing. It's a game. The Yisach Moshe explains that the Rambam was trying to teach the person, if you have the natural feeling of regret, that's it. You're already after tshuva. I can tell you what to do after you do tshuva. That's what Yisach Moshe says. I can tell you after you do tshuva, the next step is that you should try to fix A, B, C. But the idea in the mind, that regret, that is the tshuva. And a person has to know how close he is to Hashem when he does that tshuva. And it's important to learn this well and understand it, because it could change a person's life. Every person, no matter where they're up to, it could be a big tzaddik. If we would understand this idea, this concept better, it would change the tzaddik's life. Because wherever a person is up to in their life, wherever, they always could go higher. They could always do better. One of the things that holds us back is, because we're like, okay, it happened again. I don't see myself getting away from my issues. We don't understand that if we feel humble and we feel I shouldn't have done that, okay, let me connect again. We just connect. We're there. We're there again. And then you have that siyata d'shmaya. So let's learn a little bit about this topic. The psukim in Divrei Hayomim, in Novi and Nach, in Divrei Hayomim, talk about Menashe Melech Yisrael. He was a king, a Melech Yisrael, but he was a huge Baal aveira. All aveira zaros, all idols. He worshipped everything. He disconnected from Hashem, totally disconnected. Didn't talk, didn't die, just was busy with his idols. Worship. He was no shaykhs to Hashem. And the Psukim say, there's even the Mishnah talks about that maybe he lost his chelik in Olam Haba. There's a discussion in Masechta Sanhedrin, because he went so off, and he had no connection at all to Hashem, and was getting other people to do sins and everything, that maybe he doesn't have a chelik in Olam Haba. But then the Psukim continue on and saying that he did tshuva. What happened? What did he do? What he did was that when he was in a very tough spot, when they took him, he was in war, and other kings, they wanted to kill him. So he tried to pray, to daven to his avodah zaros, to his idols. He spoke to, it didn't help. He tried one, it didn't help. He tried two, it didn't help. He tried everything, and it didn't help. So then when he saw that he's really stuck, then he decided to reach out to Hashem. And the pasuk says that it worked. Hashem listens to his tefillah, and Hashem accepted it, and he was saved. Now the Gemara tells us this story and elaborates on it to teach us that we're supposed to learn from this. Now, what are we supposed to learn from this? It's deep, but let's understand it. Tefillah, davening, can't work if it's only lip service. That means if the person doesn't have an internal change while they're davening, while they're reaching out to Hashem, then they're not really connecting. If they're not connecting, then there's no electricity. It just doesn't happen. If Menashe Melech Yisrael was answered and Hashem listened to him, it means something happened in there. He came to realization, he understood, no, nothing's going to help me, I can't help myself, or whatever I did, my whole history and all my sins that I did, I found myself without anything now, and I need to reach out to Hashem, and that's the truth. And everything what I was doing was wrong. And when he reached out to Hashem, it was automatically within the reaching out. That is the tshuva. That is on itself. It's not like he said, okay, so 1 second, Hashem, I'm going to go to the mikveh. I'm going to send a kvittel to Reb Shai Kristir. I'm going to fast 3 days, and then I'm going to come daven. He didn't do that. And if you would need to do any of the above, the Psukim would say, wait a second, you can't just daven. It goes like this. When the person chaps, it means in the mind, it's like clicks, hey, I'm wrong. Hashem, could you still help me? Yeah? That's it. It's that click of the mind, because if you're davening, it means you understood that I was wrong. It means I was wrong. Any person, it means I'm far, I can't really help myself. That understanding in itself is tshuva. Because tshuva means that you go the other direction. That's what tshuva means. Instead of going this direction, you go the other direction. I spoke to a Yid that he was in New Square. New Square, they have a town next to Monsey, Spring Valley. So the Square Rebbe Zechron L'Rocha, he lived there, big tzaddik, and he was in the car, and he was trying to back up the car. So someone out of the car and was telling the driver, showing the driver from the mirror, you could back up, back up, back up. So the driver itself was still sitting in the car, and this Square Rebbe, he was still from Russia. He asked the driver, what is that person saying? Back up, he would see this guy. So the driver had a sense of humor. His name was Reb Daniel Goldstein. He was the mayor of the town there. And he said, he's saying that we should do tshuva. That's that. He's saying we shall tshuva. So the Square Rebbe enjoyed it. He chapped, he understood what he was saying. He said, he's right. If you say, go the other direction, that's called doing tshuva. So he tells the driver that most people make a very big mistake. They think that tshuva he said it in Yiddish as a bear. Bear means it's a beer. It means it's this huge, scary thing. He said, "It's nicht a bear, it's a care." In Yiddish, care means you just turn around. So he said it in Yiddish, it rhymes. He said, it's not this huge, scary thing. It just means turn around, take a different direction. That's the idea. That's what Hashem wants a person to understand. And here is where people get it wrong. Because it's true that a person is supposed to change their way of talking, the way of acting. There's a lot of things to take here in life. That's why we're here. It takes a very long time to really take care of another thing. But that's step 2. That's the next level. If a person would understand that when they change direction, they're already on the right direction, you know what would happen? They would get siyata d'shmaya, they would get help from above to be able to do the next step. They are scared to take the move. Why? Because if I have to change all that, I don't think I'm up to it. I feel drained. I'm not up to it now. I'll see. Maybe after Pesach, I'll see. Right now, I'm just so overwhelmed with so many things, I'm not up to it. You're making a mistake. If you would need to change everything, you would anyway, even after Pesach, you won't be able to. You'll never be able to. You need to have that help from Hashem to be able to change things. And all He wants from you right now is ask Him for help. The asking for help, the understanding I'm wrong and I'm asking for help, that's on itself the truth. And then you already get help, and then things are much easier. You don't have to be huffing and puffing doing tshuva. It's just much easier. And Chazal teaches this all the time. If we look in Chazal, the Gemara Masechtas Avodah Zarah talks about Rebbe Loza ben Dordaya. He did all the aveiras. He ran around the whole world to do every aveira possible. And it's a long Gemara, and the end of the Gemara says when he realized that he's where he's up to, he realized that he's so deep down, he started crying, and he had a real hiru tshuva. He had a real sense and feeling of regret that I lived such a terrible life. And the Gemara concludes, the Gemara finishes, Bocha Rebbe cried, and he passed, he was nifta. And it says, Bocha Rebbe yesh koin alome b'shah achas. He went into Olam Haba. And the Gemara says he's called Rebbe Elazar ben Nudaya because he's our Rebbe for that. He's our Rebbe to teach us that. There's a lot of things to learn from that Gemara. One of the things that we learn from that Gemara is that it's a thought. It's a machshava belief. Tshuva is a machshava belief, and we could constantly think it. Every time a person goes off, say, I was wrong again. I'm thinking again my wrong train of thought.
That's what happens. The person loses faith in themselves because I have the thought, but then another day I forget it and I go back.
But even if they forget it and they go back, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if they're going to be honest and understand that there's no reason to fall into depression or whatever, I was wrong. It's not so terrible. I was wrong, and Hashem is going to help me. I'm going to try to do it better next time. Then Hashem really, really helps them, and of course they could rely on Hashem. It's something that they know that Hashem likes when a person is honest. Hashem knows that we are going to make mistakes, and that was Hashem's plan. Hashem brought it down, make a mistake, but then figure it out, and that was worth it for me, that you should come down to this world. Hashem knew there's going to be mistakes. Now, if we know that, then we understand that when it comes to Bitachon, a person is never in a situation, ever, that they have a problem not to trust in Hashem and to rely on Hashem. Because all the Sforim that talk about that how could you have Bitachon if you are doing Averis, if you are making Hashem have tsar and everything, they are talking about a second ago. They're talking about the previous second. While the person is doing the aveira, and they want that everything should work out, and they're not leaving go of the aveira. They don't feel bad for the aveira that they did. They're just hoping Hashem is just going to help them to work out, and they want to live in denial. They want things to work out the way they want. That's their whole goal. So they're like saying, I'm trusting in Hashem. So the Chavis Alvavis says that's not called trusting. Because while you're holding on to this direction, it's not going to help you to say that you're trusting, because you're not really turning around. But in any given moment, when a person feels bad and asks Hashem, I don't want this to continue on. I wish I could change. Help me change. I can't change on my own. I feel I'm stuck. I feel I'm addicted. I feel I'll never crawl out of this. But you could help me. And I really want to change. So what's the problem? You don't have to do anything. You can just talk and daven and trust and rely and sing and dance. Is never, even if a person was rebellion, even if a person was in the worst situation. It's very important to know that. Even more important to know. When Hashem sees that a person is struggling and trying and falling and trying and falling, that Hashem in a certain sense has even more hanoah, because it shows how committed you are. Even though you're falling, even though you are not this most successful person in Ruchnius, you're still trying. And it's very important to know that. I'll elaborate on that with a real good story that explains it. In Yerushalayim, about 80 years ago, it was the middle of the war. The poverty in Yerushalayim was terrible. It was very hard. I once spoke to an older person, and he was saying, the new generation talks about, there used to be Chassidim, there used to be Erlich Yidin, there used to be good times. He's saying, you know what poverty we went through, you know what hardships, you know what nisyonis. It was really, really tough times. So there was one of the Chadorim, the Talmud Torah, where they, in the schools in Yerushalayim, that the Rebbe, the Malamed, wanted to treat the children. On Rosh Chodesh, they should feel it's Rosh Chodesh. So I don't know how he had the money for it, but he bought, they call it a pas, a piece of cake, and he used to cut thin slices, and each child got a thin slice for Rosh Chodesh. Now, this little boy was thinking about his father and the poverty in the house, and he was thinking, I want to save that thin slice for my father. So he put it away, and after Cheder, he's going to take it to his father. Now, what happened was that after an hour or two, there was recess. And all the kids are going around, and he's going to check up on his piece of cake. And he's hungry, and it's tough. And he's looking at it, and the piece of cake is talking to him. And he took a bite. He took one bite, and then he said, okay, but the rest I'm keeping for my father. And then he went back to learn. And then there was the second recess. And he went back to it, and he felt that it wasn't even. It could use a bite. And he took another bite. And he was strong enough to go away, and he left it for his father. After Cheder, he came home. And he tells his father, I saved you a piece of cake because it's a Chodesh and my Rebbe gave it to us, and I felt I want to give it away. I want to give it to you. But he looked down on the floor because he was very embarrassed, because it had these little two moons, in there, and he's very embarrassed. And he's red and he's looking down, and then he peeks up and he sees his father crying. And he says, why are you crying? He says, because those 2 bites that I'm seeing in this piece of cake made this present so much more choshev. It was worth so much because it shows how much you wanted it, how much it meant to you, and you gave it away to me. This is what his father told him. Now it's very powerful, because there's no difference when we are looking at ourselves and things are not the way it's supposed to be. But then we reach out to Hashem and say, we're starting again. A person's getting older. A person feels, how many years already? Back and forth. And I made hundreds of Kabbalahs of my life, like that person that said, you stopped smoking once. I stopped 100 times already. We're back and forth, and we're like, so I could still reach out. But that's what shows that even though it's tough, Hashem knows how tough it is. But what are we doing? we're reaching out again. And we're saying, I'm giving it away. That thing that's so hard to me. Every person with their hardships. If it's getting up early, if anything, emotions and between people, and we're trying to be nizir and mitzvahs and everything we need to do. If it's hard and it's so tough and we're still fighting, when we were meant to conquer ourselves, we were meant to reach out to Hashem and talk to Him honestly and ask for help. That was the idea. When a person understands that when he fell, that is only adding to showing how much he's committed to Hashem. Because even though it's so tough, I'm still trying. That's even more. And that is the reason why Chazal tell us, and this is Lemaisa, it's not a moshel, that if a person does tshuva, then the aveiras that he had, the sins, they turn over. A person does tshuva miyira, we take a aveira that was lemezid. A person did aveira, and it was with the whole kavon, and he meant to do the aveira, and he knew he wasn't supposed to do it, and he did it anyways, and it turns into a shoygig. It turns into like he didn't know. But he did know. But the Svarim explained that right now, when your heart and your mind, you're giving it away to Hashem now, you're pulling away the heart and mind from the Aveira towards Hashem, and then there's like this dead Maisa that's there, but it's missing the Neshama, because you took the Neshama back to Hashem. And when a person does Tshuva Me'ahava, that means a person sees, for instance, Hashem is so good to him, and he wants to do something for Hashem. And he feels bad for what he did, because he feels, I owe so much to Hashem. Hashem gave me so much. So they talk to Hashem and say, I don't want to do that anymore because I feel so, and I'm going to do something. Then they turn it over, it turns into a mitzvah. The old Aveira turned into a mitzvah. That's what Chazal tells now. It doesn't make any sense if we think into it. How could it be the Aveira turned into a mitzvah? So the Svarim explain the Balatanya and more Svarim, Melech Luzhenske, more, they explain that part of the reason you got to this deep understanding is because of the Aveiras. You feel so bad because of the Aveiras, and that's why you feel that you really want to do things different, that you really want to connect to Hashem. If you would have never done the Aveiras, you would have always lived your life back and forth. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I don't really have where to grow. I'm Baruch Hashem, the biggest tzaddik. You would never feel that you want to grow. And you would never feel this humble feeling towards Hashem. The Aveiras helped you come to this deep realization. And that's why, if you got there, and you actually try to use it as a springboard, you're using that to continue to grow. So of course, that turns into a mitzvah, because in the end of the game, it helped you become closer to Hashem. And all this that we're discussing about tshuva is super important every single day, for the smallest sins that we do, for the most little things. The reason why we don't care about them, why we just go, is because we feel this is it. That's my lifestyle. If a person would understand the power of they said something they weren't supposed to, they stop for a second, and they feel, I wasn't supposed to say that. I hope Hashem help me next time I shouldn't fall through. Little things. We would continue to grow so much more, because we would be connected. But we don't do that because we're like, let's not discuss that. That area of my life, I like let's shove it because I'm too scared to touch it, because I feel that there I'm not doing well. But that's because you gave up, because you feel there's no hope, because you feel you can't. There's no reason to do that. Talk to Him. That's tshuva. And if that's the case, and the second you turn to Hashem, you could trust in Him, you could ask for anything, you could do anything. Sky's not the limit. Another piece of the puzzle is to understand that in order for a person to have emunah, a person should believe in Hashem, a person should trust in Hashem, a person should daven in Hashem. Those that I just mentioned, believing, trusting, davening, all of the above is something that a person must do. It's a mitzvah, it's a chiyuv. Now, a person that right now is not in their best of moments becomes potter from doing mitzvahs. It doesn't work like that. A person is always on duty. if they're in a good mood and not in a good mood. Now, let's say a person did aveira. Now that Hashem says, okay, now you don't have to daven, it's fine. I'll get some other guys to come in for davening. You stay outside. It doesn't work. You have to come and you have to daven. A person that just did the worst of the worst, they have to keep Shabbos anyways. Take care what we did wrong, but you need to keep Shabbos. If we understand that reaching out to Hashem and asking Him regular, like a person, like a son talks to a father, like anything, asking for your needs and discussing and relying and trusting is a mitzvah. So because a person did aveira, they're potter now from that mitzvah. They're not potter from the mitzvah, they need to do it. They're mechuyev to do it. People have this misconception when it comes to bitachon, to trusting, that it's like this, I wouldn't say the word game, is that it's something that if we want, we could use it. Not always it works. But let's say you want to have money, you want to be successful, okay, try it. Push Bitachon button, and then, you'll make money. So then they think, but if I wasn't good, I didn't behave today, and Hashem says, I don't want you to push that button now. Because if you're going to push it, you're going to see it's not going to work. It's not like it. Bitachon is a chiyuv. You need to, you have to. Need to be connected to the truth. Every single second. No matter where you are, you have to be connected to the truth. So a person doesn't have bitachon because he's trying to do himself, to make himself more comfortable. A person has bitachon because that's what you're supposed to do. So part of being a yid is that no matter what they did, they stop everything and they start reaching out to Hashem and they daven and they mean it very seriously. So it can't be that a person that did aveira all of a sudden doesn't have to do bitachon. Such a thing can't be. So it's important to know this, that in any situation that a person is, they could have to continue davening, continue reaching out to Hashem. Just be honest. That's all. Be honest. Be humble. Understand that it's not a good way of life to be disconnected. And then you're all the way there. Now, the Chavis Lavos does speak about that a person should know that doing aveiros contradicts bitachon. Why is that? How is that? And how does this fit into this puzzle? If we understand that everybody in any given moment could trust, could daven, could do anything, so why does the Chavis always stress that a person should know that if they do averis, it contradicts the bitachon, it's hard to have bitachon, it doesn't work together? The answer is because the real feeling of being humble and really reaching out to Hashem, feeling that nobody can help me, only you, and I really trust in you, rely on you, is a very sensitive feeling, which not always a person really feels that feeling. While a person is having a lot of COVID now, and he feels he's on top of the world, and he has a lot of money, and everybody's reaching out to him now, but he's sitting Purim and he's writing these checks, and everybody's online like asking him. It's not so easy to have the right feeling right then and there. It's a feeling that it has to be developed. If you develop it, you could always use it. And it's nuclear. It works wonders because it's a true feeling. Hashem wants you to have that feeling. But you have to develop that feeling because there's a lot of faults, like when there's a product, there's the real, and then there's a lot of companies that they just
knock off.
Yeah, they copy it and they produce something that's like the false one. It's not the real one. There's a lot of feelings around the real humble feeling of bitachon, which are not the real thing, and they just don't work because they're not it. It's very important to know that. So the Chavis Lavos is telling a person, if you really want to reach that, and it's the most comfortable feeling that could be, to know that no one could help you, no one could do anything to you. You can't help yourself. You're just in Hashem's hands. I'm in Hashem's hands. That feeling is a feeling you have to work to develop it. And it pays to work to develop it. Now when a person is hanging because they fell out of a plane and they're in a parachute and they don't know if the string is ripping or what, then most probably they will have the right feeling. Yeah, they won't need a course to teach them how to feel. And most probably they would feel, and that's what happened to Menashe Melech Yisrael that we spoke about him earlier in the Shir. He was stuck, and he had no way to help himself. He tried everything already, and he knew he was going to be killed. So he had that feeling. But we don't have to be dying to have that feeling. It's much more pleasant to live a comfortable life and to have that feeling anyways. So when a person does aveirus, the things that they're not supposed to, what they're doing is that they're doing the opposite. They're developing the feeling of koichi va'otzim yadi, that I'll do what I want and I have to get that, and I'm not happy with my life, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit more pleasure where I'm not supposed to take. If they would really develop the feeling, I can't believe what Hashem gave me, why would I take more? It makes no sense. They would feel constantly like when a person brings you to a meal and gives you, and you're like, just a second, and you just take a piece of chicken from that person's plate and take it into your plate. And I need more. That's what we do all day. That means Hashem gives us money, and they were just a second. And we take a bit more. Hashem gives us pleasures and things, and we're busy doing the Vedas and talking what we're not supposed to and looking. Where are you going? If you would understand and live that Hashem is helping you and giving you should be so embarrassed, then we would be good. The more we do things that we're not supposed to, we're doing the opposite of developing that feeling. So the Chovos HaLevavos says, be aware, if you really want to reach the feelings and the idea of Bitachon, invest yourself in trying to do good things. Understand that this is something that's pulling you down, and it's slowing down your whole direction that you're trying to go to. It's not really possible to be in a, let's say, I'll say it just for the example, to be in a thank you Hashem movement and then 24 hours do whatever you want. I mean, you could continue saying thank you Hashem, and I'm not going to say it's nothing, chas v'shalom, but you're trying to reach somewhere. Chas v'shalom is saying, I want you to know that it pays to invest yourself in thinking about Hashem, in being humble, in doing tshuva. Do it, it's good. It makes you it refines you, you become so much a better person, and the more you refine yourself, what's going to happen is, you're going to connect. And then, thank you Hashem is thank you Hashem, davening is davening, trusting is trusting. It's not about a wish and a person that is sure it's going to happen what he wants it should happen because he wants it so badly. It's a whole different set of feelings. More than that, the Gemara says that a person that does a aveira once, over aveira v'shonaba, and then he did the same aveira again, nasis lo kehet. What's the idea of nasis lo kehet? What's the idea? That we get used to it, and we get drawn into it, that this is fine and this is good, and then we tell ourselves that we're good when we're not good. Not only we're doing the aveira, just it becomes also feelings of let me just live my life and I'm good and I'm fine, and it ruins that sensitive tmimizdig feelings of no, it wasn't good, I wasn't supposed to do that. So what happens is that we're building a whole set of feelings that are just going to make that we shouldn't have those real feelings of Bitachon. So this only complements the first part of the shir. The first part of the shir was that no matter what, a person could have been doing aveiros for 70 years. If they're going to be reaching the right feeling, boom, they have it. That's Menashe Melech Yisrael. It says in the Torah, not only Menashe Melech Yisrael, it says it on Rebbe Elazar ben Durdaya and other ones in Chazal. It could happen. But if you look closely, you'll see that those people, it needed a very intense story to really squeeze out that feeling of them. And some people don't reach such a situation in their life that they could even be nifted, they could even end their life and never reach that feeling. So the more real way, the more pleasant way, and the mahalach that Hashem created the world is that a person should not do aveiros, and live their life with Hashem. And they should have it naturally. They should have it naturally. I'll end up with a story of the Chazon Ish, that it's a story, we said it in the previous, maybe it's already 2 years since 2 years since we mentioned it. Exactly. 2 years since we mentioned it last time in the yeshiva. But this story explains it. We'll finish with this story from the Chazon Ish. There was a chavus of the Chazon Ish. His name was Turchin. He lived in Bnei Brak. Rabbi Lozor something Turchin. And he used to learn with the Chazon Ish when he was a bocha, and then he got married. When he was a younger man, right after he got married, he once walked into the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish asked him, why do we find that bochrim, they were very fine bochrim, but then when they get married, they fall. They're not the same madrega, they're not the same level. Is it because they were fake and they weren't really good bochrim, they just wanted a good shidduch? And then when they have their shidduch and they're married, they just become naturally again what they are. Or they were really fine guys. It's just that they went out to the world and they saw they had new nisyonis and new challenges that. So they're not the same anymore. And this Reb Lozer Turchin felt that the Chazon Ish means him, because he had just gotten married. And he's asking him this question, why in Galite fall? So he ran out, and he didn't wait for an answer, and he just walks through the Bnei Brak, and he almost bumped into a tree, and his friend finds him, and his friend tells him, what's this? Where you going? You don't live here. So he says, the Chazon Ish asked me this question, and I think that he means me, and I don't know what I did wrong. What does he see in me? So the friend told him, calm down, let's go back to the Chazon Ish, let's ask him. Come. They walk into the Chazon Ish, and they tell the Chazon Ish, what's the story? Did you mean me? He says, I didn't mean you. So he says, so what's the real answer? He says, I'll tell you the real answer. What does it mean to be a Erlich Hayid? He says, I'll tell you what it means. The Chazon Ish says, when someone needs to purchase a pair of shoes, a Erlich Hayid davens that they should go to the right store and find the right pair, and should be the right size, and should be well priced. And then they go on the street and they hope Hashem is going to open their eyes to find the right store, and they continue to daven. They come into the store and they're like thinking, Hashem, I'm in your hands. The right pair. I don't know what's a good pair. What do I know? I don't know what's a good company. I don't know. And then the pair of shoes that end up coming, they daven it should be the right pair. And then if they feel it's comfortable, they thank Hashem, and they think every day, you gave me a good pair of shoes. That's called Erlich Hayid. If a bocher in yeshiva would develop those feelings, then they wouldn't fall when they would get married and they would go out to the street, because they developed the way of a yid that I know I can't, and I rely the whole time, and I trust the whole time. I know constantly you live like that. So it's with a pair of shoes, so it's with business, it's with getting a job, it's with being thrown out of a job, it's with having children, it's with shalom bayis. Constantly they're like, Hashem, help me do the right thing. Oh, if it's the right thing, it's fine. I could take. They constantly work there. They can continue to use these tools for anything. If a Bach in yeshiva only learns how to go like that with their finger, and they only could say over beautiful ideas that they heard from somebody else, and they could chuckle. Yeah, they could sit by the Gemara, they could sit for 3 hours, 4 hours, but they never developed the feelings of a Yid. So how are they supposed to know what to do in their new challenges in life? So of course they fall, because they learned A, and then they're in the world of something else. It's a different world with different challenges. This story of the Chazon Ish just explains to us what the Chabad is saying. The more you do things right, the more you're developing the right feelings. The more when you reach out, it's true. So your davening is a davening. So your trusting is trusting. So you're humble and you connect to Him, and you're not disconnected from Hashem. The more you do aveira, so you're going to be developing the opposite feelings. But any person, any given moment, could reach out to Hashem. That's what we're always supposed to learn and study and constantly review these ideas, the more a person reaches out to Hashem throughout their day, the more they talk to Hashem throughout the day. The Gemara says, a person should be davening a whole day, which this form explained to mean a person should constantly, this should work out, that should work out. The things, if we look closer, we'll see. Usually the things that we're sure that those things are given, those things fall. Those things fall. Why? Because we disconnected. Where a person knows that those things are really complicated, that's where they daven, and they invest themselves in knowing that only Hashem could help them, and those things have a bigger success rate. So that's the story of life. But a person is never, in any situation, never disconnected, and could always and should always daven and trust in Hashem. Good. Yeah. Korav Hashem l'chol korav, but it should be be'emes. Okay.
Yeah. That's also the pshat in the Mekudeshes Misofik, if he said.
Yeah, the chinuch brings it.
It's a pirish. I don't know, he says such a funny thing.